The mission of a Toastmasters Club is to provide a mutually supportive and a positive learning environment where every member is given the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth. The Speakers Bureau Toastmasters Club embraces the entire Toastmasters vision. We have found that leaders, generally speaking, all have one particular trait in common. They are all great speakers. Perhaps you aspire to be a leader. And if you do aspire to be a leader, you are going to enjoy the next few minutes. What you are about to see is several speakers in varying degrees of their development as they aspire to be professional speakers. Aspiring to be a professional speaker, whether or not you want to be a professional speaker, is always a good thing if you want to be a leader. So take a few moments, enjoy this show, and make sure to relax and just let it overtake you. Our keynote speaker today is Susan Hawbaker. She spends her days at Intel as an information security specialist, but her weekends are where she gives back. Today, we face many changes, and Susan will address how we can take control.
Hello, everyone. Who here hasn't been through some form of change in their life? Who hasn't faced getting married, getting divorced, having children, perhaps losing a job? Everyone here has. I personally have gone through all of those things. And I spent many years of my life waiting for somebody to come along and offer me the next thing that would save me from the ones I didn't like. Most of us sit back and we wait. How often have you heard somebody say, "Don't worry, something better will come along"? That change, don't worry, it'll take care of itself. Just let it go, it'll be okay. I had a really interesting lesson, and it was crazy. It came from a 12-year-old girl. Imagine being 12 years old, coming from a divorced family, having a mother, a stepmother who lived with you, a stepsister who was about your age, a half-sister who was about 5 years younger, father in Iraq, mother in Iraq, grandmother in Iraq, uncle in Iraq, and going to a school in a brand new school district because you just moved here with your family from Seattle. I was writing emails to this little girl as a part of a program that I'm part of called PC Pals, and this little girl was beautiful. When I met her, she was at least 6 inches taller than me. She was only 12 years old. She was beautiful, gorgeous, and she had the best spirit. And as she told me her story, it unfolded to me how rough her situation was. This was in 2003, when Iraq was getting pretty hot and heavy and things were very dangerous for her family over there. And I watched this little girl's spirit just stay out there and be up and positive. And I kept on waiting for that horrible news to come in that she'd lost one of these family members. And her family was everything to her. She loved her family. Every email she sent me talked about what somebody in her family had done. She loved her half-sister. She loved her stepsister. They were her heart. They were her pride and joy. And I watched her going through all of this and waiting for something bad to happen. But this little girl taught me everything I needed to know about change. She told me up front, when I grow up, I want to be a journalist. I don't know how to do it yet. I don't know where to start, but I want to be a journalist. And I wrote her a simple little email. I said, "Have you thought about starting a school newspaper?" The next week, she had started the school newspaper. She went to the principal, she asked permission, got permission to write it, and was out being a roving reporter and had started a "What Are You Doing This Week" column and had a school newspaper that she was printing at the school office and posting around the school. And hundreds of kids were responding to this. This is in junior high school that she was in, 7th grade. And I was amazed. I'm thinking, wow, one small suggestion. And I just knew when this little girl grew up, she's about 22 years old right now, by the way. When she grew up, I knew I'm going to see her on TV. She's going to be some famous journalist, and she's going to be out there, a roving reporter, covering the world. But we spent the year waiting for that horrible news to come through. And all the time, she was positive, and I was nervous. I was the one who was scared for her, because her love, her heart was right out there, just shining. And then one day the news came. Her aunt had been shot in Iraq. And I saw the very first line of that email, and my heart broke. I was like, oh my God, what now? The next line was, but it's great. She gets to spend 6 weeks in Germany and see all of Europe while she's there. Well, that's taking change by the horns. My goodness, I would never have thought that you would turn getting shot in Iraq into a tour of Europe. But that's what her aunt was doing. And I realized that this little girl had learned how to take the changes that had come to her. Over her life, she had been moved as her family was in the Army. She had lost family members, gained family members, had to adopt family members, and every time she took it with this positive spirit. At the end of the year, I was sitting at my desk, and I'm going to cry if I even talk too much about it, and the email came through. It was Easter week. Her father sent her an email. He had just gotten back from Iraq for a 2-week visit, and he was in Seattle. So she was going to Seattle to see her family for Easter. And I sat at my desk, all by myself, all alone, late at night in my office, crying out of sheer joy for this little girl for getting that one gift. Now I ask you, what change have you got, and how did you take it? Did you smile and say, I get to tour Europe? Or did you wander around telling the world how your life was ended because your job wasn't going the way you wanted, or because the things that you thought you were getting were over, that your marriage maybe was failing? Did you have to file for divorce and tell the world that I failed at something? Or did you step forward and blossom with that change and embrace it? Did you choose to take the next step in a positive frame of mind? It all comes from inside. You get to choose. Yes, change will happen. Change will come at you every single day. Every day, good things and bad things are presented to you. Do you even see them when they go by? Or are you waiting for the perfect thing to come along? I get offers every day, and I don't even know about it. I was told just this week that a job is going to be offered to me, and my manager asked me to please decline it because he has bigger things in mind for me. But the offer is on its way, and he's aware of it. And I had to step back and think, how would this even have happened? How can an offer like that come my way? And I'm not even aware that it's on the way. Now I get a choice to make. And it's choosing how you deal with change that's up to you. No matter what you do, the change will be there. When in my intro he said I spend my weekends giving back. My weekends are spent at a women's shelter. Every 2 Saturdays a month, I go and I teach classes. They're called Skills for Living classes. In these Skills for Living classes, I'm teaching ladies who have become homeless. They're single mothers living in a shelter, sharing a room with another family, and they don't have a job. They don't have a house. Many of them are drug addicts or ex-drug addicts. Some of them have recently been released from prison, and they do not have freedom. They're required to be in their house every day by a certain time. They have to have their bag checked when they come and go. They're not even allowed to have a razor in their bedroom. These ladies are under strict lock and key. Now, ask yourself, could you deal with living like that? But these ladies have to figure out how to pick themselves up. They have to figure out how to learn new skills. They have to choose which skills. They get 3 choices: office skills, child care, or restaurant management. Pick one. They have to make a choice. And then they have to go out and establish their housing. They have to pay off their bills. They have to become debt-free in order to qualify for the next step, which is housing for this program. These ladies are faced with this change every day. Do you think that they realized this was coming when they were 12 years old? Do you think that when they were 12-year-olds and saying, I want to be a journalist, that they saw themselves living in a shelter and trying to raise their children in a shelter? I don't think so. But that change has now come along, and here they sit. And they have to ask themselves, what am I going to do with it? And I'm looking at 15 women in the class most weeks, And some of them are positive, and they're spirited, and they're telling me what they're going to be doing next year, and they've got that plan. And then I have the other ones sitting there being a victim, and they're waiting, and they're pausing. And they're saying something will come along. Someone will come and save me. Nobody's going to come and save you. You have to choose to save yourself. You have to choose which change you take on. You have to choose how you embrace that change. And if you don't make a choice, guess what? The world makes the choice for you. It's up to you how you go about this. Personally, since meeting that little girl 10 years ago, I've decided to take the choices myself. I've decided to be who I want to be, go after what I want to go after. That has directed me in at least 3 job changes. It has made me successful in every single one. Granted, one of them turned out not to be what I wanted. But guess what? I picked it. I also chose when to leave it. So you have that same choice in front of you. What are you going to do tomorrow when something wanders by your path and you have an opportunity? Are you going to choose to make a change? Or are you going to wait till change comes and slams you in the gut and you get to deal with the aftermath? Whatever you do not become a victim of it. Choose to move forward through it in a positive manner. And when you get to the end of that process, you'll get whatever you make out of it. It's up to you. You get to take it. And I encourage you to choose for yourself.
Pamela Douglas Alvarado currently lives in Sacramento, California with her husband Victor. Through her experience and education in aromatherapy, she developed a program to help people. Through her workshops, Hair God in the Garden, she has benefited many. Pamela Douglas Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. MC, Toastmasters, and special guest. I remember in May going to see my brother because my nephew was graduating from high school. And when I got on the plane, the flight attendant said, "Please fasten your seatbelt." Well, I remember years ago when I traveled on a plane, the flight attendant said, "Please also turn off your cell phones." Well, when I was on this flight in May, she not only said turn off your cell phone, she said turn off your iPad, your iPhone, your iPod, your Kindle, your Nook, your Nintendo. And I was like, what is going on? But she said any electronics. But I guess people said, well, she didn't say that one, so I'll keep mine on. So I realized that our society has turned into an electronic energy, like on a conveyor belt, just moving, and you can't get off. So when do we stop and get off? For 5 minutes and just slow down and just relax. We're nonstop at our jobs, at home, we're on the phone, we're texting, we're taking calls, we're emailing. And when we're not on the phone, someone is calling wondering why you're not picking up the phone. I know, because they always tell me, you never answer your phone. I don't want to answer the phone. Well, they say, well, why do you have a phone? I'm like, when are we going to slow down? Because at work, stress is the #1 cause for hospital visits. And at work, stress can help you, make you not think straight. It can also give you no energy. You will miss work, or you have a short fuse with that employee. So I have a picture. You see this cat? If you feel like this cat, then you're stressed. You all will get this sheet because there's simple ways to relieve stress. And there's one on here called Give a Hug. I read an article that if you get 4 hugs a day, it helps relieve stress. So we're going to do a lot of hugging after this. But through my own moments of stress in life, I remember when we lost our business, our cars, we had no money coming in, bill collectors calling. I was stressed. I went to bed thinking about it. I woke up thinking about it. I didn't know what I was going to do. And then finally I began to let my faith take over and just be still. And that's when this program came to me, Sense Sound Special Places. I found using essential oils, meditation music, and visualization really help me to relax, rejuvenate, and recharge. And I would like to take this time to show you how to take 3 to 5 minutes out of your day at work. Close the door, tell your secretary, hold your calls, and just use the Sense Sound Special Places program to relax, rejuvenate, and recharge. So what I'm going to do is pass around. I want you to hold your hand open. Normally I'll put it on a tissue, but I'm going to put a couple of drops. This is lavender oil. Lavender essential oil is very relaxing. Essential oils has been used from the beginning of time. You can find over 150 mentions of essential oils in the Bible. We're also going to use meditation. Meditation has been used for most world religions, but it's therapeutic and it's a relaxing benefit for stress management. And music. Music has a lot of power. It soothes the soul. So we're going to use some meditation music. Okay? So I'm going to take a moment. Your hand. 2 drops, and you're going to rub it together in your hand, and then you're going to cuff it over your nose, and you're going to breathe it in. I'll go around this way. Okay, if you do not have to participate, if you don't want, I forgot to mention that, because everything is all. So, just follow me. I want you to listen to the music as I play it, and follow my voice. I'm going to guide you through this. Take your hands in the cup. Inhale, breathe it in. Breathe out. One more time, breathe in. And breathe out. Again, breathe in. And breathe out. And now, put your hands down on your laps and cross your feet and just relax, okay? And listen to my voice. Close your eyes. Breathe in deep. Breathe out. Again, breathe in and breathe out. Relax. Go to a special place where you feel relaxed and at peace. Go to a special place where you can breathe. Again, breathe in and breathe out. Relax. And in this special place, listen to the music and allow it to relax you. Breathe in deep, hold it, and breathe out. Relax. Now feel all the stress and tension roll down from the top of your head to your neck, your shoulders, your arms, and out through your fingertips. Breathe in and breathe out. Relax. Feel all the stress and tension roll down your chest, your back, your hips, thighs, your legs, and out through the bottom of your feet. Breathe in and breathe out. Relax. Now look out in front of you and see this great big bubble. In this bubble, put everything that stresses you inside this bubble. Breathe in and breathe out. Relax. And now release this bubble and watch it float up, up, up into the sky. And let go. Breathe in, hold it, and breathe out. Relax. And now look up and see this great big sun. Imagine the top of your head opening up and the liquid rays of the sun just pours down into the top of your head. Feel the warmth as it flows down your head, your neck, your shoulders, your arms. Breathe in deep and breathe out. Feel the rays of warmth just flow down your chest, your back, your hips, your thighs, your calves, to the bottom of your feet. Breathe in and breathe out. Relax. Feel the warmth of the rays just flow all through your body, feeling so good. It's re-energizing you, rejuvenating you, and relaxing you. Breathe in and breathe out. Relax. And now look up into that sun as it begins to awaken you. Stretch your arms out towards that sun, feeling re-energized, feeling good, feeling great, feeling wonderful. Slowly open your eyes, feeling good, feeling wonderful. And remember this, to enjoy life, think freely, smile often. Tell those that you love that you do. Rediscover old friends. Make new ones. Hope, give in, explore. Keep a promise. Laugh a lot. Reach out and let someone in. Slow down. See a sunrise. Listen to the rain. Trust life. Have faith. Pray. Enjoy. Make some mistakes, but learn from them. Be alive. Live by celebrating every moment of life. Because life is easy. We make it hard. Thank you for joining me in Ascend Sound's Special Places session.
One day, a man bought himself a horse. All of his friends said to him, "That's good." The following day, the horse ran away, and his friends said to him, "Oh man, that's too bad." Well, the next day the horse came back with a herd of mare. And as all of his friends went, they said, "That's good." Well, the day after that, the man's son broke his arm while he was breaking one of the mares. Can you believe that? And all of his friends said, "Oh man, that's so bad." Oh, but then the next day, the village went to war, and the man's son, since he had a broken arm, didn't have to go to war. And all of his friends who had sons said, "Oh man, that's good. You are so lucky. You are so fortunate." Well, guess what? You ask yourself the question, was buying a horse a good thing? Or was buying a horse a bad thing? Well, obviously, from where I sit, the answer depends on when you came in the story. We jump up ahead of ourselves now and we say, what kind of life am I living? What kind of life are you living? Are you having a good life? Are you having a bad life? Well, you don't really know, do you? And the reason that you don't really know is because you don't know the end of the story. I'm here to discourage you from characterizing what happens to you as whether it is good or whether it is bad, because that can absolutely sink you. Your mindset, the way you think of things, the way you approach things has so much to do with the results. It is well known that the way that you approach a particular task determines how you feel about the outcome of that task. Take, for instance, in my particular case, years ago, when I was in Morehouse College, guess what? I didn't graduate from Morehouse College. It took me years and years and years before I could utter the absolute truth, which was, I flunked out of college. But look at me now. I look at me now. Was flunking out of college a bad thing, or was it a good thing? Any situation that you can think of when dealt with in the context of the rest of your life can be thought of as simply a stepping stone to the greatness that you are now achieving. And if you don't find a way to reframe, if you don't find a way to look at things a little bit differently, well, every setback is going to get you deeper and deeper into that pit of despair. Someone said that the definition of success was moving from failure to failure to failure, and I can see how that is true. Because each time you try to do something, you may not get to your peak the first time. It might take you 2 or 3 tries, and if you looked at every attempt that didn't come out the way you wanted to, if you looked at it all as a failure, then that's going to make you the worse for the next attempt. I spent several years in the emergency room, several years taking care of patients, and you better believe the next patient I'm taking care of is not interested in how good or how bad it was with the last patient that I took care of. So I urge you, look at it the right way. What you have just seen is an excerpt from a regularly scheduled meeting of the Speakers Bureau Toastmasters Club at 2801 L Street in Sacramento, California. We meet on the 2nd floor in Conference Room B. And as I said at the top of the show, if you are a leader or you aspire to be a leader, then the Speakers Bureau Toastmasters Club may be a place that you want to be. Now there are a couple of qualifications that you need in order to benefit from this. And one of those things is you have to already be a Toastmaster. Speakers Bureau Toastmasters is committed to making you the best that you can be. Toastmasters is committed to making you the best that you can be. Feast your eyes on this manual. If you are a Toastmaster, then you are familiar with the educational manuals that Toastmasters promote. This one is called Communicating on Video. We at the Speakers Bureau Toastmasters Club believe in you and believe that you can see your best self by regularly videotaping yourself. So we include that as part of our agenda at the Speakers Bureau Toastmasters. So we encourage you to pursue your professional speaking credentials. We encourage you to elevate your talent to that level where you can be as skilled as a professional speaker. So join us the 1st and 3rd Saturday of every month, the 1st and 3rd Saturday of every month at 9:30 to 11:30 in the morning. This is not your typical Toastmasters meeting, and attending this regularly will not produce a typical Toastmaster. So I am Victor Irving Jenkins, a DTM in Toastmasters, inviting you to come visit us at the Speakers Bureau Toastmasters. Bye for now. The mission of a Toastmasters Club is to provide a mutually supportive and a positive learning environment where every member is given the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth. The Speakers Bureau Toastmasters Club embraces the entire Toastmasters vision. We have found that leaders, generally speaking, all have one particular trait in common: they are all great speakers. Perhaps you aspire to be a leader. And if you do aspire to be a leader, you are going to enjoy the next few minutes. What you are about to see is several speakers in varying degrees of their development as they aspire to be professional speakers. Aspiring to be a professional speaker, whether or not you want to be a professional speaker, is always a good thing if you want to be a leader. So take a few moments, enjoy this show, and make sure to relax and just let it overtake you.
LaWanna Parker has a lifetime of experience at motivating and counseling others to reach for their goals. Over the last 35 years, she has worked with teenagers and young adults, encouraging them to realize their potential and that they don't have to be a victim of circumstance. I don't have to be a victim of circumstance. LaWanna Parker.
It's one of those days in which I have decided not to give in to a headache from hell. You're probably wondering, why does she come up here talking about I don't have to be a victim? Well, let me ask you something. When you were young, were you quiet, shy, maybe timid? Any of you? Well, I certainly were. I got to tell you, people would come to me when they had problems, but I didn't know how to respond to them. And there were dreams that I had, but I didn't know how to accept them. I just heard a story of a young girl who made her dreams happen. Well, let me tell you about a young woman, me, who didn't know how to do that. I could help other people, but I didn't know how to help myself. I wanted to dance, and people said you couldn't do it, so I gave in to that. I did go and get me a book from the library to try to learn how, but I gave in to what those people said I couldn't do. And even though I learned the techniques of how to ballet dance, I didn't try to pursue it because they said I couldn't do it. It was like that all through my life. People telling me you can't do something. And I wanted to model, you're too short and you're black. Nobody's going to be interested in you modeling. I accepted that. I accepted so many things that when something good was offered to me, I walked away from it. I went to work for the phone company. Miracle of miracles, I got hired by the phone company, making big time money in those days. I was offered a position of service assistant to a manager. And instead of accepting and trying to do the job, I said, oh, I don't know how to do anything like that. I don't think I can handle that. So she took it and gave it to someone else. I never got asked again. I was in a program learning personal development. I learned a lot in that class about how to dress, how to carry myself, how to get into a car properly, look like a lady instead of a doofus. I learned many things in there, and the instructor, the lady who owned it, was very impressed. So impressed that when she found out we were moving to Sacramento, she offered me the opportunity of a lifetime. She said, LaWanna, I'd like to expand my business. Would you be willing to run a program in Sacramento for me? And again, those fears came back of people telling me what I couldn't do. And I said, oh, I don't think that's something I could handle. That requires somebody with better education, someone who could speak the language better, who knew what they were doing. I really don't think I'm the one you should ask to do that. So I missed out on another opportunity. Now you probably wonder, what's that got to do with you? Well, I'm sure some of you have done the same things. You've listened to people telling you that you can't do something, and you've accepted it. Well, a change came for me when I met a woman. Her name was Velma Stokely. And I don't know what she saw in me, but she refused to let me accept that I couldn't do something. And she put me out there in front of people. She got me involved in community development and anything that was going on, she had me out there. Now that was new for me. I never had anybody who had my back before. Someone who said, you can do, and I'm going to be there for you. A new twist for me. But you know what? I started my own modeling group. I produced my own fashion shows, and they were great. When I needed something, it seemed like the heavens opened up and it provided me with what I needed, and I was able to do those. Now, one of those other things I wanted to do when I was a young girl was to be in a beauty pageant. Well, of course, I never got to be in a beauty pageant, but I did have my own beauty pageant in which girls came to me asking to be in it, and they were very successful. I was asked once to represent my chapter as their queen, so that's as close as I came to being in a beauty pageant and getting to be queen. But I did it. I made it, so it doesn't matter how I got there. The point is, I got there. And what I have learned in all these years is that when you need to do something, if it's something you truly want to do, make sure of the people that you surround yourself with. Don't just hang around with people who are going to constantly tell you you're wasting your time, you can't do. Because those people have already failed. And they don't want you to succeed because that makes them look bad. What you want are people who are going to be there for you, people who are going to say, you can do it. Don't give up. And an example for me would be Brenda sitting over there in the back. I did a program just this past October. I hadn't done anything in years for personal reasons I won't go into right now, but I hadn't done anything for years. So this was a first in a long, long time of something that I was tackling that was bigger than myself. And at one point I thought, maybe I should ask them to have somebody else chair this. But Brenda told me, you can do this. These are the things you need to be doing, and you can do this. Well, I'm here to say, Brenda, it was a success. The program turned out better than I expected. Got lots of compliments on it, so thank you for having my back. It's very important to know that someone is there for you. And I want each of you to take away from me this day the knowledge that whatever it is you want to do, short of going out there saying, I want to be a professional football player and you've never played football before, to know that you can do anything that you want. You just have to decide, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do it. Now, what are the steps I need to take in order to achieve what my dream is, my goal? Sit down and write it on paper. I think that is the first step to commitment, if you get it on paper. So whatever you do, whatever your dream, don't let anyone take that from you. Tackle it. Because even if you fail, you know what you need to do to improve the next time, to get it right. And you'll never know until you try. I heard someone say one time that the only way to succeed is to fail, because you learn when you fail. Those aren't the exact words, but it's close enough to what they tried to instill in me. The point is, you don't have to be a victim of your circumstances. I grew up in the projects, and as far as people in the projects were concerned, that's where I was going to always be, in the projects. I was never going to make anything of myself. I was never going anywhere. And I probably would have been there today. It had not been for one little thing. I had a child, and I suddenly wanted better for him. And that meant doing things that I would have shied away from ordinarily. Find something in your life that will help push you to do beyond what you think you're capable of. Because you know what? We all have big dreams, and we're all capable of achieving those dreams. We just need someone to say, you can do it, and I'm here to support you. So all of you out there listening to me now, I want you to take this in heart. You do not have to be a victim.
Our next speaker has been a Toastmaster for a considerable amount of time. I know him as a general contractor and even as a humorous speaker, but today he is going to give us a presentation entitled, Are You Listening to Your Emotions? And now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, help me welcome to the lectern, Cliff Brackett!
Thank you. Love that enthusiasm. About 4 months ago, I was at a customer's, it was an apartment complex. And they'd called me there because they had a young woman. She and her husband had a 3 or 4 year old. And they had a problem, and they were concerned about mold and various things. And she was explaining how this young girl would come in, and she was just going on about the problems, and she was concerned about this. And I won't go into all the details. But what really struck me was that the manager constantly focused on this young woman being angry and threatening, to sue and all of this. And of course, in the apartment industry, that's a real issue. So as she's explaining this and talking about the problem, she said, I want you to go to the Cliff, find out what's going on, and take care of it, and deal with it, whatever. So I went over and talked to the young woman, and she was going over the same thing with me that she had with the manager. And then she made the statement. She said, but she doesn't listen to me. And I thought, well, how can she say that? Because she communicated to me, the manager did the same thing that the young woman did. So obviously the manager was hearing the words. But there was something she wasn't hearing. And it was like a light. Because now I have to tell you, I've been struggling with how to communicate, how to succeed, all these issues. And there was something missing. And that day, I got what was missing. The manager was not listening to the young woman's fear. That's what she wasn't hearing. All she heard was the woman's anger. Because what the young woman was trying to do was to use her anger to get the manager to hear the fear. So I thought, well, I think we can deal with this. So I listened to her, and then I repeated back, so you're afraid that your young daughter is going to get infected with some kind of problem from the mold? Yes! And then she went on. And then the next thing, so you're afraid that this is going... And all I talked about was her fear. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, you could see, you could feel the energy dissipate. And she calmed down. And then I was able to go to the words, okay, so we need to deal with this, and I made a list, and there was like 12 things. When I got done, there was no anger. We took care of it, and all the threats about suing and everything disappeared. Because most people don't want to go through that hassle. There are always those who do. I mean, that's just our life today. And I began to look at how our emotions, when people get our emotions, we feel like we're being heard. And I started this practicing with my wife. So when she gets angry, instead of dealing with the words that she was saying, I would start listening to, so what's the emotion underneath? And I would say, so you're afraid I'm not going to finish what I said I'm going to do. Well, you never do. Okay, I get that. So what do I need to put in place that you know I'm going to finish this? All the anger's gone. My wife is such an easy woman to live with. What I really want to share with you, to kind of get you to look at, is that listening to people's emotions is not a natural way of hearing. We don't. And as a man, I can guarantee you it's not natural. But there's a certain power that we can possess in our relationships, an empowerment in terms of connecting with people. When they we hear their feelings. And I have to tell you, I've used this to change the way I communicate to people. So if they say something that activates an emotion that I say, well, I need to deal with this emotion, I'll say, you know, when you say that, I feel this way. Oh. And it changes the whole conversation. There's something, and I can't go into all there isn't time to go into all the ramifications. There's something about our emotions that we avoid. And we're brought up in a culture where, well, it started back in the Depression. My mother and all of our family grew up in that time, and one of the things that was very common is you never talked about your problems, because there was always somebody with a worse problem. So it didn't matter how bad your situation was. My mother grew up very poor, but she heard the same thing. You don't talk about your problems. So when I was growing up, guess what I learned? Don't talk about your problems, which is another way of saying, I don't want to hear what you feel. Don't burden me with your emotions. Now, I've really had to take a look at what the consequences have been in my life. So I've started a thing called the E-Journal, an emotion journal. And it's taken me a long time to get there. But every day, I write down what I'm feeling. And it's amazing how much garbage is buried down there. But as we begin to become comfortable with what we're feeling, it changes the whole way we look at ourselves. Because what happens is I have begun to feel comfortable being in my skin. This is just what I feel. What our feelings are just neither right nor wrong, good nor bad. How many of you ever heard that? Feelings are neither right nor wrong, good nor bad. But we still judge them. We're afraid of them. When you give up being afraid of your emotions, it then enables you to begin to look at your relationships in a whole new sense of, let's just say, equality. We're all equal because we all have the same emotions. And so now, when I'm listening to somebody, I'm able to be comfortable with what they're feeling. I don't have to take it personal, even if they're angry at me. I mean, I will tell you right now, as president of this club, I've made some bad mistakes, and I'm sure people have judged me. That's how you feel. I got it. It doesn't mean anything. It's just behavior, and you change behavior. You say, well, that behavior didn't work, do a different behavior. That young woman that day, when I watched, as I listened to her emotions, and I watched all that anger just dissolve, it was such a paradigm shift. And so I encourage you, individually, to look at where you avoid your own feelings. Where do you find that emotions come up and you shy away from them? You shut them down? And then ask yourself, what price am I paying by not being confronting or acknowledging my feelings? So in conclusion, I will tell you this. I have shared this with the manager that day. I explained to her what was happening, and I shared that in a nice way. Here's a way that you can begin to have more control in these relationships by getting where your tenants feel you hear their emotions. Now, I'm not going to say that she really took that on fully, because it takes practice and it takes a certain commitment. But she did see, and she was able to understand how that is important. So I'm sure that it began to make a little bit of a difference. It's not natural. And if we don't pursue that type of behavior, that way of thinking at it, it won't happen. So what's an inspiring word that I could leave you? You can make a difference in somebody's life by listening to what they're feeling.
Have you ever wanted a do-over? I'm sure you have wanted a do-over because I have wanted a do-over myself. Unfortunately, though, the rules of the game dictate, the game of life, that there are no do-overs. So you've got to show up properly the first time, don't you? But every now and then we find ourselves showing up at less than our best, and when that happens, we must simply ignore it and move on to the next phase, mustn't we? And that can be a difficult thing. It was difficult for Lieutenant Colonel Rob Walden. Lieutenant Walden was an ace fighter pilot in the recent Gulf War. He's recently written a book called Never Fly Solo. He's now a business coach. How would a business coach evolve from a fighter pilot? He almost wasn't a fighter pilot, you know. He had made a mistake 2 times in a row. On 2 separate occasions in his pilot training, he forgot to drop the landing gear. And each time he forgot to drop the landing gear, it cost the government millions and millions of dollars. So they told him, Lieutenant Rob Walden, you've got one more chance to do that, and you're going to be out. Well, today is a pilot training day. He is going now to train, and he's being trained by Lieutenant Colonel Buster. Now let me tell you about Lieutenant Colonel Buster. Lieutenant Colonel Buster was 6 foot 4 inches tall, weighing in at, well, he weighed as much as the Army would let him weigh, let's put it that way. So he was a huge, imposing man. Lieutenant Rob Walden was an unassuming guy, 5 foot 8, 158 pounds, but oh, he wanted to be a pilot. He dreamt about being a pilot. All of his family expected him to be a pilot, so he was under the gun today to pass this particular course. Colonel Buster knew about what had happened before. Lieutenant Walden knew that Colonel Buster knew about what had happened before. And so the moment of truth was beginning when Lieutenant Walden is standing there with the rest of the troops and Colonel Buster comes in, sauntering into the classroom. Every man there was petrified, including Lieutenant Walden. Lieutenant Walden more so than the others. Well, Colonel Buster is a pretty experienced guy. He knows that these fighter pilots that he's training can make or break the war. He knows that these young men, as they're flying, that they can make many great things happen if they are ready to go. Not one to let anything get past him, he walked up calmly to Lieutenant Walden, stuck his hands up and said, "New day, new jet." That's right. New day, new jet. And as Lieutenant Walden reached his hands up to shake his, you could feel the tension in the room dissipate. Almost like an overinflated tire, the air coming out of it. Psst. Colonel Buster, at that moment, changed history. He changed Lieutenant Walden's life because Lieutenant Walden now felt as though he could overcome what had happened. He felt as though those last 2 times that he made the mistake of not engaging a landing gear, he thought now that Colonel Buster was going to give him a fair shot. And the tragedy was averted. Lieutenant Walden went on to become a fighter pilot. Colonel Buster went on training more and more fighter pilots for the military. I tell you that story because as a leader, we have the power to create a certain mindset in the people that we are leading. We have the power to turn a bad day into a good day simply by sticking our hands out saying, "New day, new jet." We can ignore what has happened in the past. We can give each other the benefit of the doubt. We can make sure that the people that we are training know that we are for their good. On the other hand, we have to realize that the people that we are leading, they are also going to do great things. We don't want to take a man that's going to do great things or a woman that's going to do great things and wash them out prematurely. So As we move in our lives, as we function in our role as leaders, let us remember one of the best things you can do for a person that haven't done their best is stick your hand out and go, new day, new jet. What you have just seen is an excerpt from a regularly scheduled meeting of the Speakers Bureau Toastmasters Club at 2801 L Street in Sacramento, California. We meet on the second floor in Conference Room B. And as I said at the top of the show, if you are a leader or you aspire to be a leader, then the Speakers Bureau Toastmasters Club may be a place that you want to be. Now there are a couple of qualifications that you need in order to benefit from this. And one of those things is you have to already be a Toastmaster. Speakers Bureau Toastmasters is committed to making you the best that you can be. Toastmasters is committed to making you the best that you can be. Feast your eyes on this manual. If you are a Toastmaster, then you are familiar with the educational manuals that Toastmasters promote. This one is called Communicating on Video. We at the Speakers Bureau Toastmasters Club believe in you and believe that you can see your best self by regularly videotaping yourself. So we include that as part of our agenda at the Speakers Bureau Toastmasters. So we encourage you to pursue your professional speaking credentials. We encourage you to elevate your talent to that level where you can be as skilled as a professional speaker. So join us the first and third Saturday of every month, the first and third Saturday of every month at 9:30 to 11:30 in the morning. This is not your typical Toastmasters meeting, and attending this regularly will not produce a typical Toastmaster. So I am Victor Irving Jenkins, a DTM in Toastmasters, inviting you to come visit us at the Speakers Bureau Toastmasters. Bye for now.